The Fan.
Join Muss and Miller Lite tomorrow at Pub 42 in New Hope from 5 to 7. Stop by and register for your chance to win a spot in the Vikings Foundation Golf Tournament. Plus, you can stock up on some Miller Lite golf swag. KFAN.com, keyword golf for more info.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Alec_Lewis via Twitter. There's a mailbag. That's the most recent presentation from YA, and it involves Justin Jefferson and the potential of an extension, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and more. Let's begin with Drake May, quarterback from North Carolina, very draftable in like 5 weeks. What for those who didn't read the mailbag, like what was the approach? What were the questions? What'd you say about or write about Drake May? And good morning.
Good morning. Someone asked me, I think, like why do the Vikings prefer Drake May over Jaden Daniels? And my answer was kind of like I think externally people might think they prefer Drake May over Jaden Daniels, but I don't know if I would like report that. Like I don't know if I feel that way. Drake May is. I just from talking to people and you watch the tape, like he's definitely a little bit raw. There's some footwork stuff, but in terms of size, body type, I mean, he is the most prototypical. This guy's going to be a stud. Looks like Justin Herbert type. And I was texting with an AFC executive this past week because I was like, I watched some of the late film.
Well, how is Brandon B?
Yeah, how'd you know? Howie Rosen.
Andrew Berry doing well?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. I think I might have hit on one of them. Anyway, got weird there in the Dandelion Covenant.
But because I'd watched like some of the late season all 22 film, and I'm like, I don't really see it. And he's like, watch some of the earlier stuff. So I went back. Was watching like South Carolina, a couple other things. And then the other thing the AFC executive said to me is like first class kid, first class leader. Mm-hmm. He's got like an aw shucks to him that's a little Phillip Rivers-ish. I could just imagine and envision
Bolo Ty,
like Brian O'Neill,
10 kids,
Brian O'Neill, Garrett Bradbury, like rallying around this kid so much. Like I just could envision that very easily. So I wrote that was.
Well, why not Darisaw and Dakota Dozier
and those two guys too? Yeah. I mean, Darisaw and Drake. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was a very bad attempted impression at Christian Darisaw, but yeah, no.
Oh my God, Kirko, chill.
That's what I was going for.
It was a terrible one on my part.
No, that was better.
Okay, so do you think, like, if it's just those two, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, because Kwesi, as people will hear in about 25 minutes when we play it back, talking about 11 and 23, I asked, do you have a preferred scenario? And he said yes. So there is a preferred scenario. Next question, I guess, in fruitless fashion would be, what is it? Yeah. Like he's really going to even intimate. I mean, yeah, it would be a whiplash type head snap, looking my way, going like, yeah, you can't ask that. It's just stupid.
He might have said, well, it's a binary decision.
Correct.
We will move to and be as best as we can when it is required.
But would you say that with May and or Daniels, May would be the favored, preferred, safer option, and Daniels would be the wild card, or like the home run swing, which I don't know. How do you?
No, I wouldn't even say that. No.
Why?
I mean, there might be a reason to think that Jaden Daniels is a safer option. Mm-hmm. I mean, I on the outside, and given what he accomplished in the Heisman Trophy and the running and those highlights, it's easy to view him as this scrambling man, wildly athletic. But if you really watch, and I'll give you like the all-20 tape of him against Missouri, the all-22 tape of him against Army, the all-22 tape of him against Auburn. If you really go study those, I mean, it is drop back in rhythm, 1 to 2 to 3, progressing, throwing it over the middle of the field. That stuff exists. I just gave you 3. If you have access to all
like
22,
systematic type stuff,
100%. But he's viewed as this runner, and I mean, obviously he's incredibly athletic. But For that
he plays
reason,
like Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's not as thick and big, but he kind of plays like him.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to evaluate. You talked about this earlier with Gabe, but like you're watching him play different defenses. That complicates the evaluation. Like Jaden Daniels has incredible receivers. Guys are going to be first rounders, whereas Drake May doesn't. LSU had a great offensive line. North Carolina didn't. So the evaluation is so difficult, and that's why. you have probably an more elite quarterback minded Kevin O'Connell, hopefully driving the ship in what they want to do.
Alec Lewis, 9 to noon, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, penultimate segment, final with YA next. What if the water at your home or your place of business is diseased? If that's the case, go to goodwatermn.com. Goodwatermn.com, and here's why. It's Merle's Water Conditioning. It's Minnesota-based and proudly serving the Twin Cities for nearly 70 years. But here's the deal. Minnesota and generally everybody likes free. Merle's Water Conditioning will analyze your water at no charge. A free water analysis available right now at goodwatermn.com. It's goodwatermn.com.
Hockey fans, the NCHC Frozen Face-Off returns to XL Energy Center and the State of Hockey on March 22nd and 23rd. Be part of the excitement and fan-friendly fun at the 2024 NCHC Frozen Face-Off. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com and be part of all the fast-paced action of the NCHC Frozen Face-Off March 22nd and 23rd, live from XL Energy Center.
Got my man Scott from Mount Victoria way, listens to 9 to noon, listens to KFAN, and he had heard yours truly sing the praises of Touchdown Tile, and then all of a sudden a bathroom remodel came up within his abode, and boom, touchdowntile.com, put him in touch with one of the owners, Eric Grams, and you can be next. You don't have to like be immersed within my personal covenant to get something like that done. I'll just tell you how it works right now. If you need a kitchen or a bathroom remodel or something with tile, okay, here's the name, Touchdown Tile, then Eric Grams. Eric Grams. Book an appointment with him. Mention Paul Allen told you to stop by, and they're going to get in touch with you and remodel your bathroom in second and none fashion. That's what they did for mine. That's what they're going to do with Scott's, and so on and so on and so on. Very, very well-respected company. You'll save money because they work with all bankrolls, and it's touchdowntile.com. Kwesi, you were here awfully early today.
Yeah, it's that time of year. I spent a lot of time this weekend working, obviously, like everybody else in the NFL. But you try and steal a little family time, and so sometimes you just got to get up super early. And it's also tax season, so I had to do a little organizational stuff this morning to get myself ready for April 15th, so that I can say the GM of the Vikings for a long time.
Have you? How are we going to put that? Have you made any moves in the last 5 minutes?
I have not made any moves in the last 5 minutes. I should say we have not made any moves in the last 5 minutes.
Have you guys?
We have not.
Rumor has it there was a closed-door meeting. You might be 4 or 5 minutes late for this. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm traded to the Niners for Greg Papa and a spotter to be named later.
My guy, Papa, man. I love that guy, but we miss you. We love you here, PA. But no, we obviously, these conversations are ongoing. We're trying to reshape the team to be able to compete for a long period of time, and we're doing that. You just put yourself in the situation, look at all your options, look at, have parameters and vision, and then the options kind of make the decisions for you in a sense. So we're going to continue to have those conversations. Everything's on the table, and we're trying to do our best to compete for a long time.
Yeah, not just you, but you, Brzezinski, Grigson, just the whole staff. Do you feel like that you're playing fast right now? I mean, it's like during the course of what you do, free agency, draft, trades during the season, just everything you do and you set up, and I know you're always forward thinking, but it doesn't mean it always is of the plain fast variety. Sometimes there are metaphorical moguls. It just feels like you guys are playing incredibly fast right now.
It does. And I would liken a front office, a GM, an organization to a drafted player, and we're entering year 3. So we're growing in the same way that a young player would grow. And I think we had a great offseason, had a lot of, look in the mirror moments. How do we get better? How do we communicate better? How do we be better as a group? And we've done that. We've had probably our best conversations as a team. Everybody's pointing the same direction, and I think that's the result that you've seen. Just everybody pointing the same way, communicating well. And obviously, it's not perfect. We'll always keep trying to get better, but we're really happy about where we are as a group.
Now, after Friday and attaining Houston's first-round pick, 23rd overall, given you own the 11, there could be several buzzwords. Is the buzzword around here flexibility?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I mean,
I try not to use my buzzwords anymore. That'll come back at a year from now. But we did want to be able to be in we just looked at every scenario and said, okay, well, what if this happens? How would you play this out? Or if this happens, how would you play this out? And we just thought that move gave us the best flexibility for whatever can happen. Ultimately, team building isn't this one size fits all exercise. There's ways you can build a championship team with certain types of quarterbacks, certain types of players around them, and we're trying to set ourselves up to be one of those and ultimately be in that last game, which we're trying to be in.
Well, the A topic for today's collaboration, speaking of buzzwords, was being at the Thursday press conference, and like from Grenard to Van Ginkel to Cashman to Aaron Jones. I mean, there was so much focus on the quarterback spot, and I understand why. Because it is the quarterback spot, but nevertheless, there are some what I think incredibly interesting players about whom we can chat here momentarily. But after that trade, you have all scenarios. You have many, if not all, scenarios covered. Is options and flexibility. Now, after that trade with Houston, do you have a preferred scenario you're pondering a month and change in front of the draft?
Yeah, I would say at this point there's a preferred scenario, but the process is ongoing. We haven't finished all our evaluations. We're still vetting all the different options that are available at every position. So I would say that right now there's a preference, but these are things that update in real time as we get new information.
And pro days too. I mean, it's such
Absolutely.
An important time of the year,
pro
right?
days, private workouts, all these things matter.
Yeah. Now you're of the even-keeled variety, at least the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah that I've gotten to know as an ancillary family member. But if you have a preferred scenario and those two picks, well, I mean, we got about X amount of weeks of nervous time coming up, don't we?
No, I wouldn't call it nervous. I would tell everybody here that it's just imaginative. It's just. There's a vision for what this team can play like, and there's not just one size fits all. And I think people should be excited about which version we end up, but I think it'll be great either way.
Well, the level of excitement in the town after Friday was it was palpable. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, with the 9 to noon show from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Going to get into these players in 1 second, because last Thursday, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when discussing Sam Darnold, I sensed you didn't prefer the term bridge quarterback. Is that accurate? And if so, why?
I think all these terms, bridge quarterback, game manager, they have these connotations that come with it that I might not necessarily mean. So I just prefer to be specific about exactly what I mean about the player. If bridge is just a notion of contract term, well, then that means every quarterback with a 1 year left in their deal is a bridge quarterback. I don't think that's necessarily true. So I will say that we like Sam. We like his skill set that he brings to the table. Again, you're talking about somebody who was talented. A team took him number 3 overall. Yeah. And you talk about the life cycle of a quarterback and how they grow, and on average, when do they hit their peak or whatever. And there's a reason why, right? The number of reps in practice and versus games, seeing different coverages, making decisions. And then you talk about the context around them. What offensive line are they playing? What system? Who are they throwing to? All those things matter. And so we looked at Sam as somebody we think could give us a performance of that position. It'll look different than Kirk. Obviously, different players, but we're happy about what it could look like. And I just wanted to focus on that and not terms.
Yeah. And in the Vikings played Darnold that I can remember, Carolina and the Jets in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong here. He's a sneaky runner.
Yeah, I think he's a better athlete than people realize.
Right.
We joke about the term sneaky. It only gets used for certain people. But
what's that mean?
I'm not gonna say what that means.
No, what I mean is you don't look at him as any kind of a runner, because whether it's scheme or. But then he takes off, and you're like, damn, he's fast.
Absolutely. I think we talk about on schedule, off schedule, and can you make plays outside the confines of what Kevin called. And we think he has that ability to correct some mistakes. It's not just that he's fast, but I think he's physical. He's not an easy guy to bring down to the ground, and he can reset platforms in the pocket when it's not always clean. And then, it's 3rd and 3, and they're playing 2-man. He can get up and get you a first down. So we're excited about what that brings to the table, what Sam brings to the table in that regard. But we'll just work with him just like we will with everybody in that room and get the best out of him.
Jonathan Grenard, 26 years of age, edge guy, and 12 and a half sacks last year with the Houston Texans. interceptions, the 12.5 sacks. I mean, that statistically, that'll speak for itself, even if you don't watch the all 22. But with some of these signings, Grenard 26, Cashman 27, Van Gink, it goes back to what we chatted about briefly at the Combine, where, you know, there are low-hanging fruit items everybody can look at and say, good, bad, good, good. But the getting the roster younger and making sure that the team isn't always looking for nickels and dimes between couch cushions this time of the year. We discussed that at the Combine, and I think that's underplayed when it comes to part of the reason you were hired. Is that accurate? Yeah,
I think it goes back to having vision and just setting a path forward. You know, it's not like we just exclude based on age, but, you know, you're talking about players that are entering their prime. This game is something that is learned. So you're talking about players who are building their callus, building their 10,000 hours, and we're getting them at a point where they're hitting that slope. And you want to have players in your team that are improving, because it's not just about improving year over year. It's first half of the season, the second half of the season. We want to be playing our best ball late to be the best team standing at the end. So we focused on players that are that and also have room for growth. So you talk about somebody like Jonathan Grenard, who, you know, was injured the previous year, but the year before that was on pace to have a really exceptional year. You talk about somebody who gets off the ball extremely well, can win quickly from a pass rush standpoint, but also plays the run, I would say, with as much violence and impact as he does in the pass game. And then there's a value to getting off the ball that even if the ball is, if the player doesn't make a sack or doesn't pressure the quarterback, there's just a value to getting off the ball and stressing the tackle and kind of taking the fight to him. So we're really excited about him. And you talk about Cashman, you know, obviously everybody here knows him from his time in Minnesota. Incredibly high level athlete, not sneaky at all. Incredibly impactful. I think he could be one of the best coverage linebackers in the game. I think in the run game, his diagnose, his ability to get downhill, and his ability as a rusher, I think is going to help us tremendously. And then Van Ginkel, Mr. Do Everything. I don't think there's a single thing on defense he can't do. It was really cool to see him get the opportunity to get rushes and play more full time at the end of last season through injury, and you saw the full complement of his game. Well, with Cashman, you know, because I've known Blake. Blake went to high school with my son. Okay. Now he's 2-3 years older than my son, but I've known Blake since he was basically a sophomore in high school. Out of touch a little bit after his Gophers days, but it was great seeing him the other day. I mean, what a hard-nosed individual. Instinctively speaking, whether it's Mike Grant at Eden Prairie High School, PJ Fleck for the Gophers, or D'Amico, I mean, you when you read up, instinctive. He Kendricks, when he was atop his game, it's a lot of the things I would read or hear about Eric. I'm reading and hearing about Blake. He can be very fast too, right? Absolutely. I think that's the key instinct position, right, on defense. And so when you talk about somebody who diagnoses quickly and then has the athletic ability to arrive quickly once they trigger, I think that's a special combination, and we're excited to have him on our defense. And with Andrew Van Ginkel, like, how would you describe his position? Cashman, inside linebacker, but he had a game against Arizona last year where he had 19. I'm sure you know this. He had 19 tackles. And what opened my eyes about that is Denzel Perryman, a fellow linebacker, missed that game. So they changed Blake's spot on the fly, made him the Mike, the middle linebacker, made him the green dot, the guy aligning the defense for the other 10. And all he does is go out and have the best game of his career. I mean, it's one game, so it's a small sample size. And I know you're not small sample size guy, but when you put somebody into a new spot and you're going to do this, and by the way, we're good, and we're going to the playoffs, and it all works to the highest level, that says something about the individual. I think you nailed it. That was one of the things we were so impressed with him about. He just kept earning new opportunities. They throw him out there to do something, and he'd do it at a high level. So like, hey, we got to keep this guy on the field. Well, let's put him here. And eventually he got to the Mike linebacker role. Again, the ability to have football make sense to a high enough level where you can be thrown in different situations is important for that position, but also important for this team. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, starting the week this Monday. Happy Monday to you. How would you describe Andrew Van Ginkel's position? I mean, he plays even without Flores in Miami, he's like all over the place. And as a general manager, it gives you comfort when you can kind of pencil somebody into different spots. He can play edge. He can drop. I would say if not the best dropper in the NFL, which is his instincts, his ability to get out in space. And then you talk about as a rusher, I think he's shown that he's got a complement of moves that they can stress tackles and impact the game. And then also, if you do need him to be a little bit diverse and play a little variant defense, he can stand up. He can play a little off the ball. Obviously, his experience at college. Yeah. Incredibly versatile player, smart. Just everything we want as a Viking. The hair doesn't hurt either.
What did, if anything, Flores say about him before you signed him? Because he had him in 2020.
Flores, Brian's been talking about him since he got here.
Wow.
So I think that was one of the first players he told me about. And sometimes you have to see it for yourself in its full bloom. Mm-hmm. And I think Flo always knew that he had that in him. He's believed in him. I think since he had him, he knew what type of year he was going to have.
And I've had one conversation with him, but like if somebody asked me if you had to blanket Andrew Van Ginkel off the 10 minutes that you chatted with him, what would you say? And I'd say, A, sweetheart of a human being, and it's authentic. I mean, looks you in the eye. I mean, just what a kind man he is. Secondly, you can just tell he's smart. By he's reserved. He doesn't have to have the right answer. Waits for his turn to talk. But then you watch some things like, I think it was the Commanders game last year. I mean, that pick six, he dekes to the right so Hal thinks he's going to, and then, so that was completely born of knowing the formation, what your tendency is. If I do this, it's about an 85%, or you're going to do this. And he threw it right to him for a touchdown. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Absolutely. He's an incredible thinker of the game, and I love how you phrase it. He's the type of person who's smart but doesn't feel the need to tell you or show you that he's smart, which is, I think, great for room dynamics, and we're excited for him to be one of the leaders in that room, as you said.
So with the offensive lineman, a recent signing, Dan Feeney, like anything behind, I'm not going to put you in a position to be like, well, it's a prove it deal, but maybe it's not a prove it deal. But nevertheless, Feeney started a lot of games.
We like the versatility of both center and guard. Just one of those guys who's the game makes sense to him. Figures out how to keep rushers off the quarterback, and figures out how to cover up and make his assignments in the run game. And again, you talk about somebody who's smart, who can call a game, help out the quarterback from that standpoint. Just loved a lot about him. A lot of people in our organization were fired up when we had the chance to get him.
So, but I would imagine that does not eliminate the opportunity to bring somebody else in, or maybe like re-sign Dalton Reisner. Is there any interest in Reisner? And could you update us on what's happening with him?
Sure. I think it's, where we've wanted to be is best available. That's where we've tried to set ourselves up, both in the draft and from a acquisition standpoint. So every option's on the table. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, I understand that. Now, there are just so many players to get to. Holy cow. Aaron Jones. How'd you get him signed so quickly? I mean, he gets released, and then basically he's here.
Yeah, I think that's just having good relationships. Once it hit the wire, we called his agent, who we have a great relationship with, and said, how do we get this done? How do we get him here? Again, I talked earlier about vision and parameters. We've identified the type of player we wanted, and we had other options, but then the second he became available, he became the best option, and so we went after that. You talk about collaboration between scouting and coaching. Everybody unanimously agreed that that's somebody we wanted to bring in from a playing standpoint. Then you meet him and you learn about him, how great of a kid he is. Texas El Paso proud. I learned their hand signal thing. I can't remember it now, but and just one of the great down to earth people, family man. Got to meet his mom, his wife, his son. Just somebody we're proud to be a Viking.
He correct me if I'm wrong, Kwesi, but he was the identity of their offense at the end of the year. I mean, Grant, he tore up the Vikings like other teams in Dallas in the playoffs, but holy cow, did he take off at the end of the year?
Yeah, look, you look at his career average. I'm not sure he's averaged less than 5 yards very, very many times. And that's not just because he's running in space. He's for not a huge guy. He runs pretty tough, low to his pads, and he'll be good after contact, really good in the passing game. I think it's exciting to have a potential weapon like that in the passing game for us. Just really excited to have him, and also it doesn't change our excitement for Ty Chandler, somebody we're really excited to take the next step in his career. And we see them as a tandem in that backfield, and we're hopeful about the growth we'll get from both those players.
Is it important to Kevin to have a running back who can catch? the way Aaron. Now, I'm not going to say Aaron's better than Dalvin, because Dalvin was unbelievable his last year here catching the football. Never seen anything like it. That one-handed grab back left of the end zone at FedEx, that's as good as you're going to see. Yep. Aaron's been doing that all of his career, and Aaron is shiftier in space in the catching game than Dalvin. Not by much, but maybe a little, but the vision that Aaron has. I mean, he's gifted with high-end vision, isn't he?
Absolutely. And I don't want to compare Dalvin to a forever Viking, and I don't want to compare the two players. But I will say about Aaron, I think you've got him nailed. I think he's very shifty. He's got great vision from a separation standpoint. He can run a full complement of routes. Good hands, good after the catch, just instincts and feel for space. Mm-hmm. Again, really excited to have him.
And that's important for Kevin, right?
Yep, absolutely.
To have a running back who can catch.
Doesn't hurt. This game is, we want a 3-down back, but also in the first and second down, the play pass game, you want somebody who can be an outlet to the quarterback and, get you in positive plays when maybe the defense took away something else.
The wild card in this mix that really, really excites me is Jerry Tillery. And I remember when Jerry came into the league with the Chargers and a bunch of pressures last year with the Raiders, I believe. And he's long. I mean, he's just sculpted beautifully. And for whatever the reason, it hasn't worked out to a first-round status if you just look at it comparatively speaking. But nevertheless, what do you like about Jerry Tillery? And is there some wild card to him in that? What I'm getting at here is there were players last year with Flores. A handful of players, at least, have the best seasons of their careers. Yep. So there may have been some defensive problems at the end or in the beginning when they were all learning it. But like the middle 13, I mean, it was on fire. And so Tillery could be one of those players who maybe finds life anew professionally with Brian. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And I would say that Tillery had sort of taken a little bit of that step last year with the Raiders. I think you started to see some of the first round potential, but that position and a lot of positions are about consistency. How often can you play above the line? How often can you limit, just like almost like golf, can you limit your bad shots? And especially in an interior position like that in the run game. And I think he's starting to take that step. And then you see the flashes of that high-end first-round talent, interior pass rush, when he kicks inside the 3 technique. I think we're excited about that. Again, similar type to the other players. We think we're getting him at a place in his NFL career where he's approaching that 10,000 hours, and there's upside, and we're excited about seeing, and like you said, Flo gets the best out of our players, not just Flo, that whole coaching staff, but we're excited about what he can be.
The hitman, Harrison Smith, back for a 13th season. I mean, I know it was important to Chad Greenway when he played here to start with the team, finish with the team. It's incredibly important to Harrison. And so you're getting back for a 13th season. What did you think of his season last year, and what do you really respect about him as a player?
He had a great season last year. If you look at a tackle production basis, is one of his best, especially in a while, but one of his best seasons. You talk about somebody who went into the offseason dedicated to just, even at his age, just be healthier, and he puts so much into it. He built this crazy machine. Maybe he'll tell you about this crazy machine that he has that does some amazing things for his physical well-being. And he said he felt better last season than he had felt in a long time.
He built it?
He built it himself.
Like patented and the whole thing?
I think it's maybe somebody else's design that he just decided to build handmade. I don't want to give up his secrets, but he's you talk about from a leadership standpoint, everything he brings to this organization just made complete sense. We love him, wanted him back, and he wanted to come back. And
a few more for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, nice enough to join 9 to noon to start the week. Per some published reports, the NFL reportedly is investigating Philadelphia and Atlanta for tampering, and that would be Atlanta tampering with Cousins in almost cavalier fashion. If you read some reports, do you what's your stance on, do you believe that? Do you believe Atlanta tampered with Kirk?
I haven't listened to the press conference just yet, but that's kind of above my pale. I'm trying to do everything I can to make the Vikings the best team I can, and that's what I'm going to focus on.
You mean Kirk's press conference?
Yeah,
the one 3 hours after he signed. Okay. All right, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, time for 2 more. So you think you'll sign a free agent by noon today? Like, if you could sign one in the next 4 minutes on the radio,
We'll see.
9 to noon will put $500 on the table right now toward. That would be so cool. You're like signing them every 5 minutes, man. You know?
No, we're at a good pace. We like, again, and that's, I mean, we talk a lot about the free agents, but we're just filling other spots. We love the guys we brought back. This has been a plan in place for a couple of years, and we're excited about the Metellus of the world and the guys we were able to keep her, and obviously the Brian O'Neills and everybody else we have in our building. We're excited about.
What kind of shape as of now? It just seems, from being an outsider, that the team is in great shape next off season with being under the salary cap, depending on who gets signed and stuff like that. But is that a fair way to look at it? What type of shape? Because I know you guys are always looking 1 and maybe 2 years ahead. What kind of shape are you in this time next year?
Yeah, we're in good health. We want to get to a place where we're just preparing to re-sign our own, the guys that are coming up, and obviously taking strategic bets in free agency. But we're in a really good place for that. We've got our draft capital, which we're excited about. This is going to be, we think, a pretty good draft. So we're excited what we can add here, and then we'll go from there.
And with the 2025 offseason, with Cousins and Hunter, compensatory picks.
Yep.
I mean, maybe a couple of third-round picks, right?
Depends on depends how there's a calculation. So it could be 2/3, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't at least 1/3, and then some other ones. That math is something that Rob and Emily tell me about. They're great at it, but we'll see as the season goes on.
You're pretty good at math too. In closing, and these are under the radar, guys, but Quessenberry and Brandel. I felt David Quessenberry jumped into some very difficult spots last year, specifically Atlanta. Darisaw's a late scratch. I would imagine Christian probably got a majority of the work during the week. Quessenberry's new. He has to jump in. You win the game. So Quessenberry being able to handle metaphorical curveballs is part of his resume, and Brandel has position flexibility, and he didn't play a ton last year, but I remember talking to you this time last year, maybe. But you've always liked Blake Brandel, haven't you?
Yeah, I just loved. First I want to talk about Quest because I think you talk about somebody who's able to handle curveballs, and when you go through a life experience that he went through, you talk about curveballs in life. He's beaten a disease that's, a lot of people haven't. And he does it with a smile on his face. And that's just like he always in football. When he got thrown into that game, he's just like, yeah, let's go. That's just the mindset he has. And it's great for that room, great for our team. Just excited to have him and what he brought to our team last year and continue to bring. And then Brandel, he's somebody that we, just kind of, in watching him, love the versatility to play tackle, guard, and then we were like, we're not sure if this guy can also back up at center, just play center position. We just like how firm he is in the pocket. He plays with good length, good pad level, just really smart. As things are happening quickly, he's very quick to react and understand what he needs to do. And then you talk about a work ethic, a guy who stays after practice. If he was a starter or the eighth man, I think he'd still stay after practice. He's got that mindset. Somebody who's great in that room. So we've been excited about him. We're really excited that he'll be a Viking for a few more years.
Now, in last one, into the Combine 2020, before the pandemic hit, it's all the right people, whether they're in the game or the right type of media people, were saying this is going to be the deepest wide receiver draft in the history of the NFL. I'm an old schooler. I need to see a couple of seasons before I'm like, hey, let's pump the brakes and let's watch him a little bit. All right, well, JJ, all the way back to Darnell Mooney, Gabe Davis. I mean, it's deep. T. Higgins, and so on. So, okay, that probably was right. Heard a lot of the same last year about tight ends. And then from Laporta through Musgrave and even Kraft, Sims, who you had. I mean, it ended up being super deep. We're hearing the same thing about quarterbacks this year. And the way it was framed up at the Combine is there will be X amount of quarterbacks who get second deals as starters. You don't hear that often about quarterbacks. So do you see it as a legitimately rich and deep quarterbacks draft? Or is it top heavy and then it falls off? Like, how do you qualify that?
No, I think I do believe it's a good draft. I think it's got different levels to it. To your point, guys who would make second contracts as starters. I think there's guys who will compete to start, and you won't be surprised if they end up being starters. And then I think he's be some great guys who backups with traits. There's a lot. We spent a lot of time on this class for that reason. But that's exciting. I think that's exciting for us. Excited for every team in the league. We're looking forward to finishing our process and seeing where we end up.
Thanks for the chat.
Always, man.
Thank you, Kwesi. Thank you, Brett Blakemore, for producing at KFAN. Thank you, Nordo, for assisting here at the Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center radio studio. And most importantly, thank everybody for listening. On behalf of 9 to Noon, I'm Paul Allen. The program is next. Have a wonderful day.
Making a wave when you can. Temporary layoffs. Good times. Easy credit rip-offs. Good.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.